Is there a clock in it? Okay. First, I just want to express what a tremendous chus it is to be zocher to address a room filled with nashim chashuvim, with Mevakshei Hashem. The Oel Sarah main group's name is all around the world. Literally, everybody knows about what happens here. I don't think people really know what happens here. I just know I always see women coming in at that time if I'm ever late for a minyan when I'm driving to the White Shul. I see tons and tons of women coming in. It's an unbelievable thing, and the truth is, I just found out yesterday, Rabbi and Fuchs told me you guys are spending the whole day here learning. I don't think I'm going to make it through my own speech. I'm pretty impressed that people can sit here and learn and just want to know more and more and more. And it's usually the people that already know what they're about to learn. So thank you very much for the opportunity. It is a tremendous chus, and a special thanks to Rabbi and Fuchs who puts all this koach into this. Now normally when anybody speaks and you're speaking in a house, Poschim b'chvod achsanya is the way to go. It's always a great start. You want to open up, you want to talk about your hosts. For me personally, Mrs. Martin, you don't know this, but there's a special connection and something that I, specifically with what I'm going to talk about, and specifically for my family, that I have to open up b'chvod achsanya. See, about 8 years ago, Rabbi Shalom blessed me and my wife with our first son. And he was, like all my children, a beautiful child right away. But about 2 weeks in, if you're going to cry, I'm going to cry. My wife. About 2 weeks in, we noticed that his leg used to shake when we changed his diaper. So we thought, okay, maybe he's cold. He was born at the end of May. I don't know, maybe we had the air conditioning up too high. We didn't notice other things, but that we noticed. We took him to the doctor. Make a long story short, the doctor noticed that his hand was also shaking. And he was an amazing doctor, our Dr. Schosselberg, and he said, you know what? The words that no parent ever want to hear. Why don't you go to a neurologist, a child neurologist? Just to clear it up, I'm sure it's nothing. Once you hear that, you're never sure. It's nothing. Your mind's racing everywhere. I made sure I didn't let my wife go on the internet to look. This was before the Asifa. So I didn't let her look it up. Don't start looking up what it is. You're going to drive yourself crazy. He said, go to Dr. Martin. He's the best. So I wasn't able to be there that day, but my wife described to me what happened. And my shita in life is not to worry until there's something to worry about. And I said, it's going to be normal. You're going to go. Doctor's going to say it's nothing. Don't worry about it. We only told 2 people. The 2 people that would give us the most chizuk, my Rabbi, Rav Moshe Weinberger Shlita, and Dr. Martin. Nobody else knew. My mother till today, my sister's here. There's no reason she needs to know this. My mother till today doesn't know it because she would be worrying until he's 35, has a steady job, and his kids are all healthy. And even then she'd worry. She would just pretend not to. So we took him to Dr. Martin, and Dr. Martin held my little son. And he said, without examining it, he told my wife, he said, this is such a beautiful child. He's so lichtig. He's so sweet. He's going to be fine. There's nothing to worry about. He then went ahead, he said, let's just to be sure, we're going to do an MRI. And he sent us MRI. Not only did he send us, he called up the best place and he said, I have a patient here, they need to go in. And the place in North Shore said, it's a 6-week wait. Dr. Martin looked at my wife and said, no, this person's not waiting 6 weeks to hear about her son. He said, this is my family. So he told him, he said, this is my family. I need you to get them in now. We were in within a week. Baruch Hashem, it was nothing unlike my Rebbe said as he told me. He said, you'll see, it just means he's lebedik. His legs are moving, he's going to dance for everybody, he's going to be a lebedik kid. Anyone who meets my son, kachava. So for me, this is a little bit of an opportunity to give a little chizuk back, to bring a aliyas neshama to Sarah Yutabas Ephraim Menachem Mendel. She should be a male yosher for the entire family, for all of Klal Yisrael. And the light that you're bringing to the world with all this, through this darkness, should continue to give you and your family chizuk and all of Klal Yisrael chizuk. So speaking about this little boy, and the truth is what I'm going to say now really has to exactly do with the Oel Sarah main group, and every organization that's ever been started. This little boy, when I still worried about him. And there was cause to worry. I took him when, as an American Jewish, well, let's start the right way, a Jewish father that's an American. So what do you do when your boy gets old? When he's ready to face the world at 7 years old, you take him to a Yankee game. Right? The Yankee game is the American part. The father is taking the kid to the baseball game, and the Jewish part is I paid $20 for my seat, and not too much. So I took him to the baseball game, and I started to get worried because he doesn't have any older brothers, and all the kids in the carpool always are talking about all the names and what's going on, and Derek Jeter hit this, and did you see this? My kid has no clue what's going on. We don't have the TV. No, I mean, we're in Darkei, most kids don't have the TV, and the kid has no clue what's going on, so I started to worry, and then I really worried. We're at the baseball game. He looks down, and he says, Tati, is that Babe Ruth? Now, everybody here knows, no, that is not Babe Ruth. I pointed his finger over to the Monument Park where they memorialized Babe Ruth. I said, that's close to Babe Ruth. What you're looking at is Derek Jeter. And I said, okay, it's time to spend a little more time on this. Inyan, we got to work on your baseball knowledge. So shortly after this, he was playing in, we have this Little League here. In case I see people are asking, so I'll tell you, yes, he won the championship last year and this year, Baruch Hashem. And so he wants to show me that he's getting good at baseball. So he said, Tati, can you come outside? I want to show you how good I'm getting. I said, yeah, it'd be my pleasure. I had to set aside time, busy schedule. Friday afternoon before Shabbos, we'll go outside. I said, okay, let's get this done. Even when you do give time to your kids, you're already rushing out and figuring out the next thing you have to do. Tried hard to focus on the moment. Shlomo gets up there, Yehuda Shlomo, and he takes up baseball. He says, you watching, Tati? I said, I'm watching. Let's go. And this is when I started to worry. Picks up the ball, throws it to himself, takes a big swing, ball falls on the ground. Strike one. I say, okay, you have to give chizik to the kid. I start looking, thinking about what am I going to tell him. Maybe get the back elbow up, lean into it a little, try to coach him a little. But before I get to do that, he looks at me and goes, and I say, does he get the point of this? I'm a little worried now. I said, so what do you look back? You don't want to tell the kid. I say, good job, I guess. He takes up the ball again. He says, ready? One more time. I said, okay. He picks up the ball again, takes a big swing. Ball falls to the ground again. Strike two. Again, he looks at me and goes, huh? And I say, oh my gosh. What am I going to tell my mother? This poor kid. I said, okay, there's a resource room in Darkei. They could work with him. We'll figure it out. Picks up the ball again. Tati, you watching? I'm watching. Shlomo, please hit it. Please hit it. Hashem, I don't ask you for much, please. Picks up the ball, takes a big swing, falls on the ground again. Strike three. I say, I hope he's not going to give me that smile again. Please understand that you are striking out. I look at him, I say, I can't even fake it at this point. He goes, aren't I a great pitcher? You see, there are people that when tragedy strikes, when difficulties come, when challenges are faced, they always see it as a positive thing. They're able to look through the darkness and see the light. It was an amazing lesson I learned that day. I want to tell you a story about another person. There was a chassan and kala that got together. And soon after getting engaged, within 2 weeks of getting engaged, they were going to look at wedding halls. The mother of the kala was in. The kala is from Miami. And the mother of the kala was in, and they were looking at wedding halls. The mother of the kala, they actually had a wedding to go to. The chassan went actually to the very famous and wonderful Charlie Harari to go change. It was in Queens when he was still a bacher. And the kala went to her apartment in Queens when she was a bacharette. I don't know how to say it like that. And she went back to change, and they got ready for their wedding. The chassan came to pick up the kala. And while waiting for the kala is coming, and they're still engaged, so the chassan opened the door for her. And he comes around, and he opened the door for her, and she looks out. Now, the chassan had 20/20 vision. The kala does not, wears glasses. And she looks and she says, down 68th Drive, she looks down and she says, that's my mother. I say, the chassan says, what? He says, that's my mother. And she's crying on the phone. The chassan says, are you sure? You're right, Taka, that is. All right, so again, it wasn't a mother-in-law yet, so he waited for her to see what was wrong. So the kala then comes, and the mother comes up to the kala, and she's crying hysterically, and she's on the phone. She says, what is it? What is it? Something happened to your father. The rabbi's on the phone. I don't know, he's saying he's sick. We need to get back to Miami right away. She picks up the phone and says, Rabbi, what happened? The father had gone swimming with the son, whole story and had saved his son and drowned. The rabbi tells over the phone, says, I need you to come back. What's wrong with my father? What's going on? What's going on? I need you to come back. She says, Rabbi, is my father still alive? She knew. And he says, no, I'm sorry. She holds the phone. She turns to her mother and she says, Daddy's gone. Baruch Dayan Emes. We're going to get through this. This is what Hashem wants. I know that she said that because I was a chassan. And that was my kala. And that's how you have a son like we have. There are people that are able to face tragedies of absolutely abnormal proportions and to come through stronger on the other side. And then there are people, I like to call them the OMHers. Oh my Hashem, the manicurist is closed. What am I going to do? Life is falling apart. My second maid didn't show up today. This is tragedy. And now I know why we say Eicha. So how do we become or turn ourselves, and everybody has somewhere to go and to move forward in this inyan. How do we get further along to becoming the first type of person and not chas v'shalom falling into the despair that life can bring? And everybody faces it. We know Mesil Sesharim in Parak Al says, Ki kol in Yona ha'olam, bein l'tov bein l'ra hinehem nisyonos l'adam. Everything in this world is an nisayon to man. And we know that a nisayon is another way of saying a difficulty, a tragedy in its own right. Every nisayon is a pain that one has to go through to grow. But nisayon also means nes, lesnoses, it means to lift up. The purpose is not to make the person sad or to put them in a difficult place. It's to let them grow. First step you have to do. We have, I'm sure, besides Mrs. Martin, there are other Weis doctors or doctors themselves here. The first thing you need to do when you're dealing with anything is you have to figure out and pinpoint what the problem is. You have to diagnose. If you don't diagnose, then what you're going to do is give a medicine for something that's not wrong, and that will cause usually more pain, because every medicine has a side effect. So what you need to do is you need to figure out what's wrong and deal with that. We're having massive problems in our world of education and chinuch, in all these life issues that we have, because we're trying to fix problems with what's not wrong. We're saying this is it. No more internet. As if that's the only problem that Klal Yisrael has. I'm not saying it's a good thing and people should have it. I'm not commenting on it. But these are Band-Aids. What's really wrong? So to figure this out, you have to go to the harshest place. It starts in this week's Torah portion. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 12. I always found in the churches that people really focus when the preacher says that, as opposed to us when the rabbi gets up and says, Devarim, Parak Aleph, people start chiming out. So Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 12. Eicha asa levadi. How alone can I carry Klal Yisrael? And the Medrash Rabbi says, Eicha yashva, shlosha nisnamnu b'loshen eicha. There were three people that prophesied with the lashon of Eicha. Moshe, Yeshaya, and Yirmiyah. Moshe amar Eicha asa levadi, this week's Torah portion, which always comes out before Tisha B'Av. How alone can I carry it? Yeshaya says, Eicha haisa lazona. Yirmiyah amar Eicha yashva v'dad. Three Eichas. They're all connected by the Medrash. Shalu es Ben Azai. Listen to this Medrash. Ben Azai was asked, Amar lo Rabbeinu. They said, Rabbi, darash lanu davar echad min Megillas Kinos. Teach us something from Megillas Kinos from Eicha. Tell us something. And this is what he decided to tell them. Amar lahem, lo gala Yisrael. The Jews were not exiled. Acha kafru b'yechidah shel olam. Till they were kofar and they were denied God's oneness. Uve mila, and in the bris they denied. Shenitla esarim daros, that were given to 20 generations. Uva asera sadibros, and in the 10 commandments. Uva chamisha sifrei Torah. Eicha, Aleph, Hashem's oneness. Yud, the asera sadibros. Chaf, the 20 generations until the bris was given. Hey, the chamisha chamisha Torah. Eicha. It stands for the four things that Klal Yisrael denied, gave up on. The Perush Marzuz says something amazing, and this is what I want to talk about. Minyan Eicha comes out to the number of Eicha. She'al she'tevas Eicha hi she'ela below tshuva al kain darsha l'midas of gematria. Because Eicha is a very interesting word. It's a question without an answer. That's all the Perush Marzuz says. It's a question without an answer. Because it's a question without an answer, we learn out this limud from it. All the pain of all the thousands of years since that first Eicha was asked was all because it's a question without an answer. So what does that mean? So we go to another painful place. Don't worry, we're going to get happy soon. Parshas Bechukosai. Chapter 26, verse 17. V'nastem ve'in rodef eschem. The Tochacha is starting at this point, and the Tochacha begins with our 7 Averos that Klal Yisrael are going to do, each one getting progressively worse and worse and worse. It's fine, they'll remember what I look like from the minute ago when I go back on screen. The prophecy, so to speak, is told about the Jews getting in trouble. And we're very good at that. And we get worse and worse and worse, 7 levels of Averos. And then it goes through 7 levels of what might be translated in some English Chumash as punishments. I don't like that word because it's not true. There's no such thing as a punishment. There's corrections. An onesh is not a punishment. Punishment has the implication of, you did this, I'm getting back at you. It's corrections. Mida keneged mida, everything Hashem does is to correct the situation. And Hashem says the last one, the worst punishment, correction I'm going to do for you is, v'nastem ve'in rodef eschem, you're going to run, nobody's going to be chasing you. That's the punishment. And what's it correspond to? The worst sin of, you're going to deny God's existence. Denying God's existence, you're going to run, nobody's chasing you. The Vilna Gaon asks a great question, as he's wont to do. He says, what's the big deal? If you're running and nobody's chasing, that's pretty good. When I was in high school, so I acted, talked, dressed, thought, moved, ate, and did everything in a certain way that allowed the world to have a misconception of who I was, including all the wonderful yeshivas that kicked me out and all the places that I was thrown out of. There was a misconception, all because of everything I did. I don't know why. And the truth is, I was a very highly misunderstood Baal Chesed. I'll give you an example. It was Halloween. I had just moved from Brooklyn to the 5 towns. And in Brooklyn we have a minhag on Halloween. It's a time for chesed. You want to go out and give the world eggs. People need eggs to eat. It's a very big staple in a diet. I went ahead and I bought 3 dozen eggs and filled my starter jacket up with 3 dozen eggs. Now, Hashem always has a good sense of humor, like most of them broke in my jacket. And I went with 2 of my buddies to Central Avenue, looking for somebody of need, somebody that would require these eggs, so we can go and do this Ma'aseh Chesed. Isn't that nice of me? Here we are. We go into Sabra's Pizza, Alav Shalom, and we find 3 young men, happened to be from a yeshiva called Hafter, which we didn't get along with so well, but I figured this is a good way to make peace with them. And I say, guys, these guys I think need eggs. My other chaverim, who were deep in learning in a sugya of chesed at that moment, said, you're probably right, let's give them our eggs. So we waited. Now, you want to deliver eggs, you want to make sure that you deliver them properly. Ma'aseh chesed, you're not just going to give it like this. You want it to be bezrizis. You wanted to make sure they get it. So we waited right next to Sabra's. You know, there's this little aisle, this little lane there, whatever that is, that you could cut back to the parking lot. We waited until these 3 young men were there, and I said, and I picked up and I threw my eggs to the recipients, hoping that they would turn around and say, Shkoyach. It was a misunderstanding. And it turns out that none of these guys wanted any eggs. How was I to know? And they went ahead and went to call some of their chaverim, and they wanted to explain very carefully, in a way that I would remember for a long time in the hospital, why it's necessary to first check that your recipients actually need the chesed you're going to give them. Which, by the way, is a good lesson for life. There are people out there that people think they want to do their chesed, and they're going to do it any way possible, even at the pain of the person they're giving it to. We have a friend right now that's going through a SAR, and everybody wants to do what I need to do. I do. My wife is arranging the meals and stuff, a very horrible time, and she's telling the people they don't want anymore. Just you have to stop. But I need to do something. It's not about your need. It's about the recipient. Just a side point. So these young men came back with 7 guys, 6 or 7, and now I wasn't so good at math, but I did realize that we had about 2 1/4 guys, because I'm a small guy. You can't tell now, but I used to be very small, and the other guy was not much of someone to get involved in Melchemta Shotar that we were about to get involved in, and my other friend was okay, he was good. So these guys were coming to explain the sugya to us, and we decided, feet don't fail me now, and we just ran. And we ran, and I got home, and one of my friends, actually Shalom, called me, a friend of mine who ended up passing away, and he called me and he said, Shalom Yona, why were you running? I had a nickname then. It was probably something like Tzaddik or Talmid Chacham. I don't remember what they were calling me. There was a certain nickname that he said. It was something like that. Gain. It's hard to recall. So he said, Tzaddik HaGain. I said, yeah, that's me. You got the right number? He said, why were you running? So why was I running? First of all, how do you even know I was running? Where were you? He goes, I was part of that group. 4 of the friends were your friends. We've heard what happened. We were coming to help you. When you were running, nobody was chasing you. What a machaya. They're not out there to kill me. I mean, to explain the sugya to me. There's nothing better than that. I don't know if you're aware, because this is your own Nashim Tzidkanios, but there are things some people have in their home. It's like a big rectangle usually, and there's people inside of it. They're not really inside of it. It's filmed like a camera. They call it movies. So there are certain genre of movies called horror movies. And in every one, what happens is the girl is walking, and she starts hearing footsteps behind her. She's worried, and the music goes, and she's running, and it's saying word to word, and then she turns around, and it was just the wind. You're running, nothing. I mean, she turns around after and gets killed, of course, because the guy's there. But for that moment, there's So what's the Torah telling us? That this is the absolute correction. So let me give an answer that I'd like to suggest, that I spent a lot of time looking into and thinking about and learning and asking Rabbanim and asking psychologists about. And this is what I've come up with, and I've been really talking about this for the last 4 years or so. I believe it's an absolute focal and essential tenet to Yiddishkeit. It runs the gamut through every Yom Tov, through everything we do, from learning Torah to how we act. Everything has to do with this one Nakuda. It's not the deepest Nakuda. There's a sugya under it, but it's not for now. There's an old rabbinic saying. It's so old and so focal to our lexicon that most people think that it's somewhere found in the Gemara or the Medrash. In fact, while looking for this, I asked many Rabbanim, and people just didn't know where it was until I don't know why I didn't go to him right away, to my Rabbi, to Moshe Weinberger, who right away knew where it was. And one time I was speaking about this, and a girl who heard about it from a friend who's also a speaker called me and said, I've been trying to find this forever. Where in the world did you get this? She was looking for 7 years. Everybody thinks it's somewhere at Pashon. It's actually based in a pasuk in Mishlei. Pasuk in Mishlei is found in Parak Tesvav Pasuk Lamed. Ma'ar einayim yisamach lev. The enlightenment of eyes brings joy to the heart. The Metzudas David says, and he's an Achron, this is not the first place it's found in the Gaonim. That's the first place we have this phraseology. Ha'aretz anayim b'davar ma'amasupuk yisamach leiv. The enlightenment of eyes in something that was of doubt brings joy to the heart. Ki ein ba'olam simcha kataras hasveikos. There is no parallel joy to the removal of doubt. If you can remove doubt in your life, you will find that is the absolute apex climax of simcha in the world. So there's an obvious question here. We call it ein simcha kataras hasveikos. Right? That's the lashon we use. The rabbis are trying to teach us, the Rabbanim, the Gaonim, are trying to teach us the secret of happiness. They're essentially saying that the word for happiness is clarity, meaning, purpose, definitiveness, which is a word. Definitiveness. When you're definite about something, that is simcha. Ein simcha kataras hasveikos. Why do you have to say it like that? I had a teacher in 5th grade, a math teacher, which is probably how I ended up being the Baal Chesed I ended up being, who always wore the sweater, the cardigan thing that I guess as a math teacher I think you're mechayiv to wear, and to look a certain way, and he had the pocket protector in there with all his pens and pencils. Now, like me, I'm sure everybody's thinking, how would I get these pens? That's how I would do it. No, this is how we do it. 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves, 4 moves, 5 moves, 6 moves. The most backwards way possible this teacher used to go get it. As a 5th grader, it drove me crazy. I said, are you kidding me? You want me to learn from you? You're insane. Why are you wasting your time? So I left. But there are better ways to say it. You could say 3 different ways. Happiness, the best happiness is clarity. The best happiness is the removal of doubt. There is no joy like clarity. The double negative of ein simcha kataras sveikos. There is no joy like the removal of doubt. Why? In fact, if you notice, any chazal that you find that's describing a situation or a mentality of man is always like that. There is no like that. Why? Why do you drive us crazy? Just tell me what the pshat is. As someone who learns Gemara, it's sometimes infuriating. You go through 5 blot. We're doing Pesachim now in the daf. 4 or 5 blot to find out that the word or means light. Or lar basar. Back and forth, back and forth. Just say it. I'll get it. I'll write it down. So let's see if it's true. Which, spoiler alert, it is. Let's just go through. Who are the happiest people in the world? Who would you say is the happiest type of people? Huh? I'm looking for a type of person, irrespective of where they live or what era they lived in.
The one that had William, I think, because they don't worry and
okay,
everything good, positive eyes.
100%. But what type of people have that naturally? Yeah.
Happy with his life.
Okay, these are all good chazals. Let me.
Like minding your own business, doing minding your own business.
But when I give the answer, you'll see what I was looking for. But all these are true. These make people happy. Children are always happy. Rav Dov Ber, the Mizitra Maggid, said you have to learn 3 things from a child. If you only learn what I'm about to say now, because it's from the Mizitra Maggid, Zechus Yagan Aleinu, then it was worth it to have to deal with me for the rest of the hour. Children learn, they know how to be happy for no reason whatsoever. It's their default setting. They're always happy. We, believe it or not, we learn to be miserable. It's the one thing we're good at learning in this world. We pick up on that like nobody's business. How to be miserable. How to find negativity in everything. How to always find the worst part of everything. We're great at it. Children are just naturally happy. I'll get back to that in a second. Before I want to tell you the other 2 things he says. Also, never to be idle. There's no batala by a child. My little one, Dover, who just turned 5, I love watching this. There's nobody's around. We have a little mirrored piece when you come into the house. He'll sit in front of the mirrored piece and practice faces. Just practice. I don't know what he's going to use them for one day. I'm sure it's going to be a very successful endeavor, whatever he does. He's so deliciously cute, and he's just practicing other cute faces that he can do. Don't let a moment go by without doing anything. And then, children are great at this, and this is the ultimate lesson of tefillah. They know how to ask. Mommy, 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 mommy. Mommy's on the phone. Mommy's on the phone. I'm cooking. Hold on one second. Mommy, 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 mommy. Mommy's falling asleep, please. Mommy, 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 mommy. What? Hi. That's it. Children are great at that. They know that who they're asking. They know they love them, and they will never stop until they get an answer. That's how we have to daven. That's what Mizitra Maggid said. You learn it from children. But they're always happy. And even if they get sad for a minute, happiness is just around the corner. I'll tell you a story that my daughter doesn't like when I say, but she's not here. So, we're in the 9 days, so you know about tragedy and difficulty. And we all know, we just went through it last Sunday as well, and some of us are going to go through it next Zman. The most tragic, sad, difficult day of the Jewish calendar. Visiting day. Visiting day at camp. It makes you wonder why they call it camp. V'ameven Yavin. You get up there, and your little girl, she was 9 years old, and this is our first one to go to sleepaway camp. Her older sister stayed back. She went first. She was very brave. She went up there, and she... great time. The kids are waiting there, and if you're a minute late, oh my gosh, that feeling of guilt that you get, because I'm stuck on Route 17 for 6 hours, but no, the kids sitting there with the puppy eyes, and they're waiting for you, and then you get in there, and they pretend like they didn't even care that you come, right? But in the first second there, and then you're like, no, it's all good, we're good. When are you leaving? You getting out soon? So my daughter Rivka, she is cool as ice. We're there, we're spending a nice day together, and talking and showing, and this is my counselor, and this is my bunk, and this is where I sleep. Sure enough, about a half hour before closing time, you get that very nice, sunny disposition head counselor. Hi, parents. Hope you had a great day out here today. Fantastic. We love you here at Camp Ronanu. We'd like you to leave soon. Half hour. His voice got very dark all of a sudden. We'd like you to leave soon. Okay, all right, half hour. My daughter turns to my wife and says, Mom, you can go. You don't have to. My wife's like, no, we're squeezing every second out of this. I'm not leaving you, don't worry. And she's being very like, I'm good, you can go. And now at this point, the smart parents, not me, got out when the getting's good. They're happy, the kid's happy. You happy? Okay, love you, bye. Boom, and they're gone. And then a second later, the kids, they're starting to amass like who knows what. They're piling up kids that are sitting there crying after the parents leave. And all the moras and the counselors are all, and the camp mother's like divided herself somehow into 15 people, and she's going around and hugging everybody. It's a sad scene. And then what happens is, 15 minutes left. 15 minutes left. Anyone who will be left will be shot on sight. What? Did he just... You see people going up on turrets, and people are lining up, they're putting out barbed wires, everything. They get a little crazy with getting you out of that camp. I think I'm barely exaggerating if anybody's been through this horrible Indian. It's getting crazy. 10 minutes left. Please get off the campus. We will not have you. I will not hesitate to shoot. And my wife is saying, honey, why is she like this? I said, she's trying to be strong. Let's go right now. Trust me. Okay, finally, there's 3 minutes left. The gates are closing. Somebody already got shot, I think. There are people lying on the floor. There are mothers and kids going like this. And through the fence, she's throwing her a red apple. Here, don't ever forget me. And people are dragging them away. It's a crazy scene. So, I'm a little smart, even though I'm a guy. And we have 3 other children. I take my older daughter and older son. I say, sorry, you got the baby. He was 4 at the time, or just turned 4. I said, you got the baby. I'm taking the kids. We're going to the car before they close the gates. I don't have to climb through barbed wire. Let's just go now. She said, okay, let me just hug her one more time and touch her here and smell her and one more. I said, okay, you do what you got to do, but I'm going, Rivka, love you. I'll see you later. Okay, good, we're good. Love you, good, good. Tati's going, we're gone. I'm in the car. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I already hear shots ringing out. People are crying. It's insanity there. It's absolutely insanity. Things are blowing up. I don't know what's going on. My wife is nowhere to be seen. People are heading out already. The tears are flowing. Finally, 15 minutes later, 10 to 15 minutes later, my wife finally shows up. Her shape goes backwards, and she's crying. I said, breathe, please. I don't know what you're saying. Okay, as the only man in this room, I'm going to do a solid for my brethren out there, your husbands and future husbands. Please, we beg you. Just tell us what's wrong. We'll try to fix it. I promise. But the whole... I can't do anything with that. I don't know what to do. I'm a human. I know you think we're great. We're your husbands. I can't. So finally, I wait the 10 minutes. I said, can we go? Can I get on the road? Can you cry on the road and tell me? Okay, good, because we have a lot of traffic ahead of us. We get on the road. I was hesitant to leave because I thought, like Chas Shalom, something really bad happened. I was ready to break through and save my daughter from the clutches of this horrible camp. So my wife comes out and she says, she finally calms down. She says, okay, this is what happened. Now, there's no more exaggeration. This is exactly what happened. She says, I'm about to leave. I take Dovi and the rain starts coming. Hashem knows how to set the scene, right? The rain starts coming like crazy, and it's a dark day out. Floodlights are... Okay, floodlights are exaggeration. And she's taking my son, and she's running, and she says, all of a sudden, she sees behind her, slow motion cam. My daughter is running out. Mommy! My wife turns around and drops the baby, just throws him to the side. Don't leave me here! My wife turns around and runs back to my child. I love you! Trying to reach for each other, and just before they're able to embrace, the camp mother, there's no mother in my child, the camp mother rolls around and in her golf cart, they, like Secret Service, we got her. They pull her on and they're gone. And so my wife comes back to the car and says, you don't know what just happened. They pulled her away. I think they're going to kill her. I don't know. I say, relax. I promise you, she's fine. She's absolutely fine. She says, are you sure? In my head, I'm thinking, that sounds pretty rough. I don't know, but I want to get home. And I know there's nothing I can do about it because the barbed wire is already closed. So I go home. The next day, I get a call at work, and my daughter calls me off and says, "Hey, Tati, how are you?" I said, "Good. You're alive? You're not in an insane asylum? Like Mommy said that things were really rough. What happened?" I was crying. I felt a little weak, and I called Mommy. She said it like I just said, "Mommy." She doesn't remember the verbatim. "Please don't leave me here. Please take me home." She says, "No." I said, "What happened?" The camp mother came. They gave me a can. They said, "Is that Rivka Weis crying?" And they took me away, and we went to Happy Land. And that was it. We think that when they're crying that the world is ending. Children are naturally happy, and they go right back to it in a second. They're just great at it. I'm sure anyone's had their little child where they go from, like, you mamish think that this little demon couldn't have come from my womb. When you're looking at them and they're doing their tantrum thing, and then nothing ever could save them, and then all of a second they fall back asleep, and you look at them, "Oh, she's a malach. Mamish a malach." Children are great at that. Sleeping people are also always happy. If you will watch a serial killer sleeping, he'd look like a malach too. Just everybody. That's why people love watching their kids sleep. They would go into the room and just look at check up on them and how sweet they look, because they're sleeping children. And the last group of people that fall in this category are mentally challenged people. They're actually always happy. I used to work for OHEL. I'm jealous. Nothing bothers them. I mean, they get thrown off for a little bit. They're always happy. Let's talk about two other types of people that are happy, and then show what's the correlation between them. By the way, interestingly, parenthetically, that's why these three groups of people have a shaykhus to Ruach HaKodesh. Ein hashchina shruya ela mitoch simcha. The Shekhinah only comes mitoch simcha. These three, the Gemara in Baba Basra tells us that when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Nevuah is taken from the Nevi'im and given to children and shotim. To crazy people, as the Gemara calls it. It was given to these two people. And we know that dreams are 1/60th of prophecy, the Gemara in Bracha says. These three people have a shaykhus to Ruach HaKodesh even in this time. Sleeping people, children, and mentally handicapped. To take it a step further, people, believe it or not, many studies, and I do a lot of reading about this, third world countries, people have the least amount of things in their life, are the happiest. When I was working for Esha Torah, I was zocheh to travel the world. I went Ireland and India and Spain and Chile and Costa Rica and South Africa and lots of times to Israel. And I found, one time we went to a place called Kliptown in Soweto. I don't know if anyone's been to South Africa, to Johannesburg. There's a place called Kliptown in Soweto. And a person there by the name of Thulani Madando, if you want to look him up for whatever reason, his name is Thulani Madando. He takes you in to Kliptown. What's Kliptown? Kliptown is the poorest area probably on earth. There is no electricity, no running water. There is an 80% teen pregnancy rate. It's the worst of the worst. So we go in, and I'm bringing 50 secular Jews into this place to show them something called the gumboot dance. They put on these, it has to do with African mines that they used to work in where there was a lot of water. They put on those galoshes boots, and these little, very, very African men and children sit there and do a dance for you. And they start, and they go crazy, and everybody's dancing. The simcha was unbelievable. So much so that afterwards they were teaching us another game that they play there, and the game is also all around dance and song. Everything to do is dance and song. What was amazing is probably one of the most highlight experiences of my life is I said, "Can I teach you something?" And I gathered my students, and this is the one song every Jew knows, and we sat there in the dirt of Kliptown of Soweto, in the middle of Mamish Gehenim, and we sang Am Yisrael Chai. And I taught it to 250 Africans in the middle of this place, and we're sitting there singing Am Yisrael Chai, hey, Am Yisrael, and everybody's going crazy, and the place is going mad. And you had to see the smiles. My students left, and we give a class on happiness on this trip. I think I gave that class that time. And the students said the ultimate highlight was touching real joy. They said, I've never seen anything like that. There was real simcha. And we know, in terms of time, we're much more sad and depressed than our grandparents were. Our grandparents' generation, absolutely, there was a constant state of joy. They may not have looked in the pictures, right? You see those pictures. I don't know why they weren't allowed to smile in any pictures that were older than 1930. But for some reason, there must have been a ban against it. But there was a certain shalvas hanefesh that they had. Why? What's the common denominator? Let's try to get to this. Common denominator is very simple. They have definitiveness. A child knows one thing. My parents love me. I have a home. There's no worries. There's no thoughts about what's going to be, questions, sveikas, where am I going, what's going to be, how's my job. They don't think about these things. Then when they start, that's when they learn how to be miserable. Sleeping people, there's no thought process. So they're happy. Mentally challenged people, there's no worries about anything. This is the common denominator. In the poor countries, there's no choices. Choices make us crazy. It's not coincidental that we're living the most miserable time ever in history. And I'll talk about that in a second. And we have so many choices. Our grandparents, right now, you want to go out to dinner. Simple pashut thing that we have in our life. You want to go to dinner. Who do you call? Well, where do we go? Once you figure out the dilemma of who to call, because this one's going to be insulted, and this one's going to be happy, and this one you can't, fine. You figure out you want to go to dinner with your friends, you go to dinner. Where are we going? Who's driving? When are we going? What are we eating? You get there, the menu comes out, 16 different appetizers that are on this type of plate. And then 16 different appetizers are in this. Their choices are driving us crazy. In the poor, by our Bubbies and Zaydis, there's no choices. It was, do you want to eat? Yes. Good. Here's your potato. Done. That was it. Where do we go? What do you mean, where do we go? There's no restaurant. I'm in the shtetl. Where do I go? I go here. What am I going to eat? I eat what you put in front of me. Done. In the poor places, there's no choices about what's going on. This is dust. It's safe to say we're living the most miserable time now. I could tell you in my travels with Esha Torah and going around the world and meeting approximately between 1,500 and 2,000 students over the last 4 years. This is a scary thing, and I'm always scared to say it because 70% at least that I know of, that have spoken to me or I've dealt with, could probably be called clinical depression. They are dealing with it through either alcohol, loud music, meaningless relationships, drugs, self-medication. I had a girl, we were in Spain. She was a cheerleader. She was the president of her college, whatever, very smart girl, attractive girl. Her parents, her father is an assistant DA, her mother's a successful, everything going for this girl. She takes out a pillbox that my savta would be totally envious of. This was an amazing pillbox with all the thrills and frills, and there's like 16 pills in each day. I said, Amanda, what is all this? This is my Xanax, this is my just to get through the day. I just had this chus 2 nights ago to go to Lakewood to talk to a group of about 30 mothers, lo leinu, of kids that are off the derech and on drugs. I went there at 8 p.m. I was supposed to then go meet with the kids after in their place called Minyan Shalanu. I didn't. My wife called me at 10:55 and said, "Where are you? Because you didn't call me yet that you're done." I was still talking with these women till 11 p.m. in Lakewood 2 nights ago. I want to read you because it hit me so hard. A letter one of the mothers who put this together gave me that her son in 9th grade wrote. 9th grade. Nice yeshiva boy from Lakewood. I met the mother, I met the father. Listen what he wrote. I'm skipping some things that will give away things. My whole life I was depressed, a depressed soul, and I had a torturous and horrible life. The few months I was learning in such and such yeshiva were my worst days of my life. Every day when I woke up, I was depressed about the horrible day that lay ahead of me. Every night when I went to bed, I prayed that I did not wake up in the morning. They have a bechina from Rosh Hashiva twice a year to make you depressed and feel horrible. This is what this kid felt. This kid is 21 years old now, still off the derech, involved in all sorts of extracurricular activities that we never want our kids to even know about. The amount of depression is staggering. It's choking. The sadness that envelops this world. On a global scale, we have, let's figure this out. On a global scale, the world is in a state of sadness because we have instability, which is doubt and uncertainty in every area. In economic, in military, in political, in the climate even. Nobody knows what's going on. So all these things, they infiltrate the soul and makes us feel like the anxieties and the worries, which is another word for sadness. That's what brings sadness. It envelops us. It destroys us. On an individual scale, nobody has clarity in their own lives. You ask a kid, I ask any of my students, so what are you doing? What are you going to do with your life? Do you love this person? Are you going to marry them? First 3 words out of their mouth, I don't know. Even when they haven't answered the question, I don't know, maybe I'm going to do this and that. So you do know, but we're so used to saying the words, I don't know. And the harshest part, and this is why this is such a big sugya now, in this crowd, I'm not going to be mefared it, I do in certain crowds, there are close to 13 different orientations of how a person can love another person. V'amev Yavin. 13. I had to do the research for this. You know, I could tell you that I have students that are dealing with this sugya. They are tortured souls, and they'll admit it to you. If they're open with you, they will say that this is because the greater the level that you need certainty in, which is self. Who am I? Why am I here? So if you have more doubt in that, that's going to bring more sadness than anything else. The world is suffering, absolutely suffering right now. Now, I used to always say that, based on how I see things going, there's going to be one day you're going to go to DMV or fill out one of these forms, and instead of A and B by gender, male, female, it's going to be A through E, with E being all of the above. 3 days ago, I read in the paper the Australian government has announced that there's a third thing you can fill out now. It could be male, female, or intersex on the personal documents. Australia actually came out with this. This world is going very fast in one way. In all areas of our life, this is what happens. It's not the pain, it's not the tragedy itself that gives us the pain, it's all the doubt that it brings. Relationships. It's not the fight that causes the pain. It's the doubt underneath it. Does he or she really care for me? Does he love me? Does he accept me? Am I good for him? Am I lifting him up? Does he lift me up? Why is he any more sensitive to my feelings? Will we ever love each other again? Will I find the right person for me? It's the questions. It's not the etzem tragedy and difficulty. It's only the doubt underneath it. In jobs, it's not the lack of employment or insufficient funds. It's, will I ever get a job? Am I going to grow this job? Is this job right for me? Am I happy doing this job? And even lo aleinu in tragedies and death. If you think about it. My son Shalom, that I was talking about before, had a mora in Darche. It was in Darche, and she was older, and she finally got engaged. It took her a very long time, and she finally got engaged. And unfortunately, she lost her father. Her father passed away pretty young. Her father. I went to pay Shiva call, and I don't care how rabbi-ish you are, it's the most uncomfortable thing, you don't ever know what to say, and usually me, I always say the wrong thing, so my sheet is say as little as possible. That sheet, of course, was adapted from my wife, who taught me always say as little as possible, because she's seen the trouble that I get into. So I come in and I say, and I let a quick one escape, and I say, I'm Makaminach, and I say, I'm sorry, must be horrible timing, Kala now. She said, no, it's perfect. I said, what? She said, you knew my father. Now, her father was a very obese man, very, very obese. He was in a wheelchair already. And she said, because now my father can dance at my wedding. I said, what? She said, because my father was very heavy, and he would have been that nebuch that had been rolled down the aisle, and people would have danced in front of him like this, but he would have been in the wheelchair, and he wouldn't have been able to walk me down my aisle. She said, now, who my father is, she had that clarity. He could walk me down the aisle, and he could dance for me. Blown away, absolutely blown away by that. She had a certainty of who her father is, not the father she senses with her 5 senses that she could see, touch, and smell. And no, the father that she knows that's inside that body. And the proof is very clear that these is what's really bothering us, because what happens when well, we're in the frum world now. So usually I give this to secular crowds. But let's say what happens when the shidduch doesn't go well, right? So the girl calls all her friends, and they try to say, first they with definitive say that the guy was a jerk, and he was a bad guy, and this wasn't good for you, and whatever. But what do? They say, let's go somewhere we can take your mind off of it. I don't know why that somewhere is always a chocolate ice cream shop, but that's where somehow there's definitiveness, I guess, in the chocolate. I don't know how that works. But we'll go do that, to get your mind off of it. Wait a second. My heart is hurting. I'm in pain because of an emotional pain that I just went through. You want to get my mind off of it? What does my mind have to do it? It should be, right? If the pain is connected to what happened, you should be in pain, no matter what. But we can get out of it. We can think our way out of it. You can get your mind off of it, because the pain is only there because of your thoughts about it. It's a very powerful idea. Your pain is only there because of what you're thinking about what happened. If you could put it in the right perspective, then you can be happy. It's a choice to be happy. There are many secular psychologists and people that are experts on this thing, on this Indian, that agree with this. One of them, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who is Hungarian. It took me a long time to learn how to pronounce that. The Hungarians are very mean that they put a lot of consonants in a row in their names. CZKLP and then, an ampersand. I don't know. They're horrible people. So, not if I'm Hungarian. I'm allowed to say it. So he said, he wrote a book called Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. It took 25 years, a quarter of a century, studying happiness. And he said, pain and pleasure occur in consciousness and exist only there. That's where pain and pleasure exist. Viktor Frankl, in his book, who's a Yid, but he wasn't from, he developed something called logotherapy. And you have to read his book, A Man's Search for Meaning. For me, it's like my second Chumash, Lahavdil. He writes in there, life is not primarily a quest for pleasure, as Freud believed, or a quest for power, as Alfred Adler taught, but a quest for meaning. The greatest task for any person is to find meaning in his or her life. Suffering in and of itself is meaningless. We give our suffering meaning by the way in which we respond to it. It's what you do with it. Okay, so let's wrap it all together in a nice bow now. Clarity, definitiveness, knowing, meaning, purpose, happiness equals happiness. Doubt, anxieties, worries, questions, sadness. But what does it mean, Ein Simcha Katar Sveikas? Why is it backwards? Why does it have to be the removal of doubt? What the rabbis are trying to teach us is, yes, having clarity is a tremendous, tremendous level of simcha. But we're in Galus now. And this is not a class about why. It's a very interesting sugya why, whatever we can know about this. But as the Gemara uses, Hashda dahasas lahachi, now that we've come to this point, we're in Galus, we're in a bidiyavad world, there are sveikas in the world, there are challenges, there are tragedies. Kol inyani olam hein nisyanos olam, as the Mesilas Yesharim says. Everything is a test. There's difficulties, challenges at every moment. Some are easier, some are lighter, some you don't give a second thought to, and some rock your world and shake you to the core of your existence. Now that we have that, if you can get through that and give meaning and purpose to that, there's no greater joy you'll find in your life. The struggle through the doubt to achieve clarity, which is why the rabbi said it backwards. Why the rabbis always say it backwards? Because they want you to have to struggle through it. Why did the Gemara do that to me? Because if you struggle through it and then you get the answer, that's geschmack. That's awesome. That gives you a simcha that's unparalleled. Hashem is echad. There's only one picture. He cut it up into a big puzzle, and the world is fragmented now, and he said, Kindlach, put it back together. Make sense of it. And that's where you'll find your simcha. The Gemara, based on the Gemara in Chagiga and Bava Metzia, this is found. The Chida said it before me. This is not my Chiddush. In the Pesach Enayim and the Shalos V'Shuvah Zivchei Tzedek, they bring down Ha'ar ein a nikar ela mitoch ha'choshech, ha'emes ein a nikar ela mitoch ha'sheker. Truth is only seen through falsehood. Light is only seen through darkness. Light a light in here now, it won't do much. Make the room dark, light a candle. We all know, we've all heard it before, many, many talks. That's what brings light. That light is appreciated. That light is felt. To put it in other words, every superhero needs a villain. You know what a superhero is without a villain? He's a weirdo in a cape and tights. There's no purpose to him. He's a weirdo that's flying around showing everybody his tights. If there's a villain out there that he could be kovesh, then he's a superhero. Every person that you've ever looked at in life to say, what an amazing person. Like this girl, Nebuch, that went through this whole thing in Ohio, that was trapped in this Russia's house for years. The three girls, they put out a video yesterday, the news had them. And everybody's talking about how she said that God got me through this. And she goes, I could walk through the street now with a smile. She was kept with 11, 12 years and subjected to the worst things ever. And she's getting and saying, and every hero, she's a hero. Why? I could walk down the street and say, I see God everywhere, and I could go with a smile, because I didn't go through what she went through. So she's the hero. It's why Hashem sends us difficulties. Why I'm not allowed to say that, but one of the reasons why Hashem sends us tragedies. Nobody wants children sleeping. Nobody wants a child to be a child forever and to stay sleeping and or chas v'shalom to be mentally handicapped. Why? They're happy. All you want is happiness in the world, right? If I would go through and say, what do you want? I want this. Why do you want that? Because I want that. Why do you want that? At the end of the day, you'll come out with happiness. I want to be happy. That's our ultimate desire of life. I want to be happy. So therefore, you for sure want your kids to be happy. So your kid is chas v'shalom, they're mentally handicapped, they're sleeping, they're staying children. That's great. No. They have to. We intuitively know they have to be happy by going through the issues, by going through the tough times in life. That's the answer to the Gra's question. The Gra's question was, you're running and nobody's chasing you. Geschmack. No. That means that if you are denying Hashem's existence, Klal Yisrael got to such a point where you're denying Hashem's existence, the one most definite thing in the world, the only definite thing in the world, the only real thing in the world is God, Echad. And you're denying that, I'm going to make you go, in order to get back to realize what the problem was, I'm going to correct it by, you're going to run in life. That means something's always chasing me and something's always bothering me. And you have no cause and no reason. And you don't know why. And you can't put a reason to it. You can't put your finger on why is this happening to me. There's nothing harsher than that. I want to be clear. We just went through Hurricane Sandy, right? I'm sure everybody here was affected in some way. We were homeless for 2 weeks and then lost a lot and whatever. We, Baruch Hashem, didn't have anything near what most people had. People were coming to us as if, Chas Hashem, we lost somebody. How are you? My wife, okay. We come home like, this one is like, how are you? Oh my gosh, how are you? We're like, we're fine. Our kids are all healthy. We're good. Okay, so, we traveled for 2 weeks and we would buy people's homes and it was a little uncomfortable. What are you going to do? But people went through very, very tough times. So afterwards I went and I gave this drasha over at Hank, the Hank High School, to the entire high school. And I told them, I said, it was within a week or so that I spoke to them, I think. Before, we weren't even home yet. And I said, you don't have to know the answer. In fact, you're not going to know the answer. Gullus. You will not know the answer to why Hashem has done anything to you in your life. But what you have to do, and this is what's mutal aleinu, this is what is incumbent upon us, is to react to whatever it was in a way that it would have been a good enough reason for Hashem to do it. Achiezer, Nivneh, all Sarah main group. React to that tragedy and bring light to it. That will be such a light that you can't understand how great it is. Do something that you could imagine Hashem saying, that's why I did it. That's what I wanted you to do. You give the answer. You give the meaning and the purpose and the definitiveness to whatever you have to go through in life. And your simcha, it lies right there. Your light of the darkness of that time that you're going through lies within that. This is what time we're going through. Mashiach comes from the darkest place. Lot and his daughters, Yehuda and Tamar, Rus and Boaz, David and Bathsheba. The Sfarim HaKadoshim tell us that Mashiach had to come from the darkest place because he brings the ultimate light. He's born on Tisha B'Av. The Medrash and the Yerushalmi say he's born on Tisha B'Av. He's born on Tisha B'Av. What does that mean? He's born on Tisha B'Av? Because Eicha is the question without an answer. That's the pain of Eicha. And Eliyahu HaNavi, Eliyahu HaTishbi, he comes to give the answers. The first thing Eliyahu does on his to-do list, what I got to do? Redeem the Jewish people. Answer questions. Comes and he answers our questions of life. First thing, that's the first thing you have to do. That's when our mouths will be filled with laughter, because that's what we're hoping for the light to enlighten the darkness of the doubts and the difficulties that we're going through. I want to just finish with the story. 2 minutes for a story? It's always 2 minutes for a story. Do you have 2 minutes for another part? No, for a story. See, I knew that. About 18 years ago, Rabbi Milstein, who runs one of the heads of Project Inspire, they're very active now in the 5 towns. So he was running a program called the Discovery Program. Some of you may have heard of it. Discovery essentially was developed by Eish Torah students. I'm not sure if Rav Noach Zatzal himself developed it. Somebody developed it, and they basically go through different points, giving evidence that the Torah was divinely authored. Okay? There's a big need for that in the world now. And there used to be a 2-week program. 2 weeks of discussing it. Classes, 2 weeks. Imagine. Okay, we know what's happening in the world now. It went from 2 weeks to a week, from a week to a Shabbaton. I've given it in an hour and a half. That's pretty much, and I've lost everybody in the first 15 minutes usually. So there was a weekend that they had. And part of these weekends, I've done this many times in Shabbatons, we do what's called the Stump the Rabbi session. Right? The rabbi sits up there and everybody comes, and rabbi question. It's like a handbook. I have all the answers already. And each time I put, ooh, that's a good question. I never thought of it. Let me think. Your answer is this. It's easy. Rabbi Milstein's doing this, and then he spent the whole Shabbos, and there was a kid that he noticed that looked a little off, looked a little dark, looked a little down. He didn't have time to go up to him, and he sees he's sitting in the back through the Stump the Rabbi session, and he says, any other questions? It's late Saturday night already, Matzah Shabbos, and people have asked the questions. And finally, the kid, you see, he's building up the courage. He gets up and he says, he's wearing all black, and he says, yeah, Rabbi, I have a question. Rabbi says, okay, what can I help you with? The kid was about 16 years old. He says, why did God give me my life? Why does he hate me? Says, well, what are you talking about? I'm sure he doesn't. He's starting to answer it. He says, let me tell you. When I was 3 years old, social services took me from my home. He starts to unroll his shirt and lift up. And there are burn scars all over him. He says, my mother used to put her cigarettes out of me. My crazy mother, with me and my brothers and sisters, and he shows them all the burn marks. And the audible gasp was heard throughout. He says, why me? Why do I have to go through this? And not only that, when I was 10 years old, my mother fought the system and got me back. I'm back now, I'm 16, 6 years in this hell. Why? Rabbi Milstein, as I would have done, took a big gulp. And he remembered something Rav Shalom Zecher Tzadik HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught him. You're just a kli. Daven to Hashem, and I do this before, every time I speak, before any time I do a question and answer session, I say, Hashem, I'm just a kli. Give them the answers that they need. Just use me. Use my mouth. Don't put anything of me in it because I know nothing. And he remembered and he said a quick prayer, a quick tefillah to Hashem. He says, Hashem, please let me help this kid. And he says, listen, I don't know. I don't know why God did this to you. And I want you to know that I love you because you're another member of the human race and because you're a Jew. And if you need anything, I'm here for you and I'll help you, whatever I can. But I do know one thing. I want to paint a picture for you. He says, imagine 15 years from now you're walking down the street and you see a line coming out the door, almost as long as the Olosar main group line coming in from Broadway. And the line's going blocks and blocks and blocks, and you're like, wow, what's going on here? It's Harry Potter's out, or Nebuch, these people are waiting for days. And you walk along the line and you start asking, what's going on? There's a book, I don't know, there's a book. And you get up there, and it's in Barnes & Nobles, and they're waiting for a book. What's the book? The book is called Stopping Child Abuse Once and for All. The author, you. Bestseller. You're helping thousands and thousands and thousands of people cope with this. Would you go through it? Is that a good enough reason? And the kid stops and thinks. He says, yeah, I understand. Fast forward 15 years. Rabbi Milstein's in Passaic, New Jersey, doing a similar program. Question answer. At the end of the question answer, a young man with a hen jacket comes up to him, and he told the same story. Rabbi Milstein told this story then. He says, Rabbi, do you remember me? He says, no. He says, I want to show you a picture. He shows him his wife, his kids. He says, I was that boy. He says, you were that boy. Oh my gosh, I always wondered what happened to you. He says, well, you know some of the story, but you don't know the beginning of the story. You see, I went to this program seeking answers. And I told God, very simple, I made a deal with God. I said, I have a lot of questions. I have one answer for these questions, to kill myself. If you don't give me another answer, I'm out, I'm done. I cannot deal with this pain anymore. And I was waiting for one answer, and you gave it to me. Thank you so much. It's not about the pain. It's about what you do with it. This program is the ultimate answer. This is the shiur. I feel almost silly giving this shiur. I'm preaching to the choir. Hashem wants us to be happy. Aleph. Beis. He gave us the tools to do it, to make decisions, and to use our mind and our koach hasichli to work on things and to come out with greater light than you could ever imagine. If you have a time of darkness, like I told these mothers in Lakewood, I said, I cannot wait. Trust me. If you've ever been to a wedding of people that have gone through drug abuse and alcohol abuse and these things, I was at a wedding, I've been at a few of them. My wife told me, she goes, I think the guys are drunk here. Because the simcha was crazy. I said, sorry, they're not allowed to drink. These are all, they're dry. The simcha is absolutely unbelievable, off the hook. It's another planet. I told these mothers, I said, when your kids, wherever they come back, whenever they come back, they're going to have a simcha. That light is going to shine throughout the end of the world. Mir Hashem, we should be zocha to see the light of Mashiach Tzidkeinu come, to answer all our questions. We shouldn't have to go through any more tsar. We should greet Mashiach Tzidkeinu v'her v'meinu amen v'amen.